world we all know, which may or may not be the best world possible, once again springtime had come. But all the magic of spring was not enough to conceal the misery of Manor Farm. Once thriving and fruitful, the farm and its owner, Mr. Jones, had fallen on evil days.
Hello Year 8, this is Mrs. Holly here. I hope you're getting on well at home, with schools still unfortunately shut as we move into term 6. We are going to start a new unit of English work today, reading George Orwell's classic novel Animal Farm. The purpose of this presentation is primarily to give you a bit of information about Animal Farm before we start reading, so you've got a good set of strong first impressions. But before we do that, I just want to go through a few small changes to the way that work is being set for you this term. So first of all, you'll have seen today that you've got your lesson on Show My Homework, and attached in PDF was a task sheet that looks something like this. That is giving a list of activities which you simply need to work through. This is going to be the format that you have all of your English work in through to the end of term. We're also going to be doing video presentations such as this one, not every lesson, but in lessons where we believe there is an important idea or a new skill that we need to explain in a little bit more detail. And just like today, you'll be going onto the task sheet, you'll see that there's a link we want you to follow, and that should open up smoothly on your computer or your mobile. You also might have noticed that your English lesson was set today by your class teacher. What this does is it has a couple of advantages over what we did last term. Firstly, it means that you can ask your teachers directly via Show My Homework, so you can add comments. Your teacher will be able to see those and will get notifications about that. So you should be able to ask questions if you get stuck more smoothly than before. Secondly, it also means that you can submit work directly via Show My Homework. If you want to email an attachment of your work and send it off the same way as last term, that's fine, that will still work. But you can also submit the work directly as an attachment on the Show My Homework website, and that might be easier for some of you. So what you need to do each lesson is to work through the task sheet carefully in order, and then if we've asked you to submit work, to submit that on the same day that that work is set. So sometimes we ask you to submit your work in class. That means you don't need to send an email, you don't need to send an attachment. But other lessons, we do want to read and give you feedback on your work. And if that's true, we will ask you specifically to submit the work via Show My Homework. If you've got any questions about that, please do get in touch so we're all on the same page. So let's move on to Animal Farm. I'm going to show you a range of images and quotes about Animal Farm, and you're going to note down your ideas and your predictions of the book. This is so that you have a really clear impression of the book before you start reading. So pick up a pen and divide your page into 2 columns. On the left-hand column, I'd like you to put the subtitle Predictions, and on the right-hand side, I'd like you to write why read this book. So pause the video for a second to give yourself time to do that. Okay, so as I show you these images and small texts, in the left-hand column, I'd like you to add your predictions for what you think this book might be about, given what I've shown you, and also what might happen. What sort of events might happen? What sort of relationships might be formed? What do you think happens in the end? On the right-hand side, I'd like you to write down any reasons you think you've got for reading this book. Now, I'm going to caveat that quite strongly. I do not mean by that whether you personally feel persuaded to read Animal Farm rather than, say, going out and having a run around in the sun or developing a vaccine for COVID-19. I'm not really making this personal. What I mean is, given what you've seen, what do you think makes this book generally interesting or engaging? What makes this book different from other ones you've read or heard about? What makes this book important or unusual? So it's not really whether you feel personally persuaded to read the book, though I hope you will be, and it's more in general, why do you think this is a popular book? Why do you think that this has become a classic? So let's get going. This is a book cover for Animal Farm. So have a look at not just the main subject of the image, but also the details. What's over that pig's right-hand shoulder? What's on the left-hand shoulder? What sort of colours and fonts are there, and what does that tell you that the book might be like? What can you see overhead? The more details you look at, the more specific your predictions will be, and therefore the more interesting. So write down at least one prediction for the book and at least one reason to read the book. And as ever, pause the video to give yourself some time to do this. Next, we've got another couple of book covers. Again, have a look at the actual details. Think about colours and textures, maybe what things seem to be coming up across all three book colours, and what that might tell you. So you're writing down your predictions and your reasons to read the book. Next, we have a couple of film posters for Animal Farm. So on the left, we have quite a modern adaptation of Animal Farm for the big screen, and on the right, we have the 1950s animated version of Animal Farm. So have a look at everything that you can see on both of those posters, and see if you can add something new, another prediction for what might happen or what this book might be like, and maybe another reason why someone might want to read or watch this text. Now, I'm going to read you the book blurb for Animal Farm. The book blurb is the information that you get on the back of any book that gives you a sort of a teaser or a short introduction to what that book is going to be about. So again, as I read, you need to be thinking, what information is this book blurb giving me? What predictions can I make? What have I learnt? What do I think this book is going to be about? Mr. Jones of Manor Farm is so lazy and drunken that one day he forgets to feed his livestock. This leads to a rebellion under the leadership of the pigs, Napoleon and Snowball, as the animals take over the farm. Vowing to solve the terrible suffering and inequality caused by man, the renamed Animal Farm is organized to benefit all who walk on four legs. But as time passes, the ideals of the rebellion are corrupted, then forgotten, and something new and unexpected emerges. Animal Farm, the history of a revolution that went wrong, is George Orwell's brilliant satire on the corrupting influence of power. So take a moment now to add to your list of predictions and reasons to read the book. All right. Finally, we're going to have a look at 4 different book reviews, very short excerpts of book reviews. So this is what people who have read the book have said about it. Number 1, a wise, compassionate, and illuminating fable for our times. That was written by the New York Times. Number 2, sinister, sad, yet true. Animal Farm is the most thought-provoking piece of literature I have ever read. That was written by the Guardian newspaper. 3, In this book, little by little, the assumptions about human nature are stripped away, and what is left is surprising, true, and terrifying all at once. That was written by author Scott Burkham. And finally, I have an excerpt of a book review written by the novelist Margaret Atwood. I grew up with George Orwell. I was born in 1939, and Animal Farm was published in 1945. I read it at age 9. It was lying around the house, and I mistook it for a book about talking animals. To say that I was horrified by this book would be an understatement. The fate of the farm animals was so grim, the pigs were so mean and mendacious and treacherous, the sheep were so stupid. Children have a keen sense of injustice, and this was the thing that upset me the most. The pigs were so unjust. So last time, adding down some more predictions and some more reasons that you think you've got to read this book. So now what you should have in front of you is a pretty long list of impressions of this book, predictions for what's going to happen, and maybe some ideas for why people read it in the first place. Why is this a book which is important enough for us to read it as a class or to teach it? So now we're ready to start reading the book itself. So I'm going to talk you through what resources we've got in place to help you do that. We're going to be reading the book chapter by chapter over the next few weeks, and the resources we've put together are principally to add each chapter in PDF format to show my homework. So for this lesson, you'll be able to see that there's a PDF attachment of chapter 1 of Animal Farm, and we'll be doing that every time you need to read a new chapter. You can also access the full book by following this link. This will allow you to go back over previous chapters if you want to, or perhaps to cheekily read ahead in the text if that's what you'd like to do. Finally, there is an animated film version of Animal Farm which is available in full for free on YouTube. And actually, you watch the first minute or so of that right at the start of this presentation. So if you perhaps want to get a sense of the story before you read the book, or just to get a sense of what's going on as you read, you can use this video. I would just add a warning though. The end of the book is not quite the same in the film, so you need to be careful as we get towards the final chapters so that you really understand how Orwell wanted this story to end, rather than the people who animated this film. So then, you now need to read chapter 1 of Animal Farm, and then go back to your task sheet, complete the remaining activities, which won't take you very long, and then you'll have another lesson coming up on Wednesday when we're going to have a little bit of a look about the background of Animal Farm and a bit of history that you need to understand to get on with the book a bit better. Thanks very much.